Hi everyone, it's me, Krylios, Team Racing Productions MC and producer. And joining me today is Omari Musa. Welcome, Omari.
Thank you very much, Peter.
Thank you so much for joining us here. It's a pleasure to have you. I want to begin with you letting our audience know what you are running for this year because it is an election year, and we've interviewed so many people. So let's begin with what you're running for, why you're running this year, and a little bit of background about yourself.
Okay, I'm running for delegate to the U.S. Congress from Washington, D.C. I'm a supporter of the Socialist Workers Party. That's my designation on the ballot. I'm a part of a national campaign. The presidential candidate is Allison Kennedy, a former coal miner, and Malcolm Jarrett, who is a cook. He's running for vice president. She's running for president. That's what you'll see on the ballot. The
Wonderful.
reason I'm running is that I'm the only candidate that presents a program for working people, not only for DC, but around the country and the world. As we go through this interview, you'll ask me a question or two about what I mean by that, and I'll explain it very clearly. But the candidates that are running are candidates that represent the rich, and I'm representing working people. I don't say vote for me and I'll solve your problems. We all got the same problems. 40, 50 million people unemployed, so on and so forth. Now all that's on the news has been that the president of the United States has COVID. Well, lots of people have COVID, and why is that such a big deal when 40 million people are out of work? So we'll talk about that a little bit, I hope, if you give me the chance.
Definitely, definitely. Well, let us touch on a little bit of that. Tell me, what would you say are the three biggest issues that you would like to tackle if you are elected?
Well, the biggest issue, as I just indicated, is the question of the division between us working people. We are the majority. Every institution in the United States tries to make it seem like we're on our own. But if we unite ourselves, we can force change. First thing I would raise is that we need a crash public works program to provide jobs for everybody that's out of work at no reduction in pay at union scale so that they can live. I mean, we live in Washington, D.C., not an easy place to make it ends meet. So that would be one of the things that I would propose, that not that I would do that, but that the union movement in the city would organize the millions of us who are employed and underemployed to demand that the federal government does do this. The other thing I think we need is a union in every workplace. For example, I work at Walmart, no union there. Walmart is the largest employer in the United States, the largest private employer. We think we need a union to defend ourselves. Their main thing is profits. And they don't care if we get hurt, die, don't have enough hours, whatever, to live on. They don't care. So we need to organize to protect ourselves on the job, both safety-wise and wages and conditions-wise. The other thing I would suggest is that we need a party of our own, a labor party. That's what the Socialist Workers Party proposes. Not that I would organize it, but that our union movement would organize it. And it would include, for example, all of the workers who don't have so-called papers, who are so-called illegal, who clean up all of our houses and most of our apartment buildings and business places, who are subject to being deported at anything. That's one good thing about being an African American in the United States. They can't deport us nowadays, but they use as a threat against and keep us divided. So we would include them as well. We call for amnesty for all working people without papers who live in the United States right now, so that this dark cloud doesn't hang over them, so that they can be active politically as well
Yeah.
as other working people.
And that's important. You touched on it, you touched on something, and I just would like to point out for the viewers and for many Americans who may not realize that, many immigrants here, and many who, might not have papers or documents or stuff like that. They are not exclusively, from South America or from Central America. There are many others from so many other places who are doing many, many other things as well. But maybe because they're not in high numbers as our Latinx brethren and, sisters, that, that's not brought up a lot. So I think that would be very, very important. Tell me something. You touched on the pandemic, you touched on the whole COVID thing. How has that affected, your campaign, and how has it inspired or shaped or changed your priorities going into this campaign and what you would like to do if elected?
Well, the federal government, the local government, haven't done anything to stop us from getting this pandemic. They make it seem like we're the problem. Stay in your house. Don't go to work. Well, how are you supposed to pay your rent if you don't go to work? How are you supposed to take it? The schools are closed. The schools don't provide a very decent education for young people anyway, but you need them to begin the process of at least learning how to read and write. But they're closed down, and they're going to open them up, maybe, when they're not safe. So the teachers, the parents, and the students themselves should decide when it's safe to go into those schools and do whatever is required sanitation-wise so that happens. That's one of the things that we raised in our election campaign. We counterpose what happens here, where everybody's left on their own, to what's happened in Cuba, for example. I've been to Cuba several times, and I'll comment on U.S. restrictions against Cuba. But there, the incidence of COVID-19 is very low. They have it, but it's very low. They have organized and mobilized thousands and thousands of students who were like you, medical students, go door to door and find out, is your neighbor okay? Is anybody sick, and so on, and then report it. And if you're positive, they bring you to a doctor immediately. Here in the United States, they just throw you in if you're older, they throw you in a nursing home and you just die. You just throw you away. In Cuba, nobody's left alone to decide. And that's the kind of system we want. The medical system, so-called, in the United States is simply a profit system for the pharmaceutical corporations and the big hospital corporations. You and I and most working people don't count, except to pay the prices that they charge, if we can.
If we can, definitely that. All right, well, it is, it's a big year, it's an election year. The general election is coming up. Tell me your feelings or your opinions toward the election cycle this year, and how has this campaign been for you thus far?
Well, one of the things that's very interesting, hopefully some of the people that are watching this we have talked to, we go door to door. We just go and knock on doors. And we don't know who's going to answer the door. And we begin to discuss, not what the problem is. Most of us working people know what the problem is, but how are we going to resolve it? How are we going to have unity? How are we going to stop police brutality? How are we going to guarantee a woman's right to abortion if she so chooses? How are we going to stop this mass incarceration where over 95% of the people who are in jail have plea bargained? How are we going to stop the injustice system? These are things that we discuss and how to decide. Our proposal is that we need a different kind of government, a government based on working people. You and I, for example, people like us, we wouldn't organize society to have millions of people unemployed. We'd figure out a way to have everybody with a decent job. We wouldn't cater to the hospital industry. We would provide medical care for everybody who needs it from cradle to grave. The same thing with pensions and so on. But here, if you get older, they just throw you away like you're a piece of used lemon and you're no good anymore because you don't produce profit. That's what this system is all about. So we're finding that people are very interested in what we're saying. Everybody doesn't agree. If everybody agrees, we'd be living in a different world. But people are open to a discussion, and the idea that I'm a socialist worker doesn't frighten anybody at all. You know, they want to talk about it. Well, what do you have to say, Omari Musa, about our problem? And they say our problem, not the problem.
Ah, I like that. I like that. So tell me something. Why tell this is an appeal to the viewers or whomever may be watching. Why are you the perfect candidate? Why are you the integral candidate? Why are you the choice for for voters this year? You know, what separates you from everyone else who is running? What separates you from your opponents? Why should
Well,
you hold that seat?
as I said, I'm the only working class candidate in the race. And when I say working class, I don't mean I just go out and work every day. I mean with a proposal and a platform to advance the interests of working people. That's what my campaign is about. It's not about me solving anybody's particular problem. I have problems of my own. Um, but if we're united and organized, we can fight and defeat this system. Our problem as working people, and we are the majority, in spite of what all of the politicians say, we are the majority. We have a right to run society in our interest. So that's what we propose. Now, this election is very interesting because the Democrats have been working hand in glove for the last 4 years to get rid of the guy who was elected president of the United States in 2016, Donald Trump. Everything is organized around, no matter what happens, it's his fault. Well, in 2015, we had the same problems we have now before the election, and it wasn't Donald Trump. This is all hidden. As Malcolm X, one of, I think, the greatest leaders of the working people of the world, once said, they scare you with the wolf and then they send you to the fox. And that's what every 2 or 4 years, they put up so-called elections where the Democrats and Republicans compete with each other. They don't offer a program for us to advance our interests. So that's why we're running the election campaign. Workers need to have our own voice in the elections and use those elections to organize ourselves to fight for change that we need. That's it.
Very
Let me
important.
another little thing. I'm old enough to remember the elections in 1964, where a presidential candidate of the Republican Party named Barry Goldwater was running, and a candidate of the Democratic Party was running. His name was Lyndon Baines Johnson, a pro-segregationist Southerner, by the way. And the whole propaganda, the liberal apparatus said Barry Goldwater was going to bomb us into the Stone Age. He was going to bring nuclear war. He's going to throw people out of jobs, so on and so on and so forth. So what happens? Lyndon Johnson is elected president. He decides to bomb Vietnam into the Stone Ages. We got unemployed again. There's a depression. The incarceration rate of African Americans began to go up and away, and so on. So it's tweedledee, tweedledum in the real world. And we, the working people, are considered by the liberals, for example, as the undesirables. That's what Hillary Clinton called us. That's what Barack Obama called us in the last elections. So we have to fight on our own. We have to defend ourselves. And organizing a party of working people, a labor party, is one way forward.
Very important. Thanks so much for that. Now, if we, I want, how important is voting this year? You know, I want to do almost like an appeal to to everyone that is watching and the importance of voting, especially this year. So tell me about that and how you feel about the importance of the people using their power of the vote.
Well, the Socialist Workers Party, support the right of everybody to vote. We fought and shed blood for that over 150 years or more. But we don't think voting solves the problem. People vote every 2 or 4 years for something or another, usually the same thing. We have a saying that was used to be very popular in the working class movement, and it's going to become again. It's better to vote for something you want and not get it than something you don't want and get it. And that's what the Democrats and Republicans represent. Something we don't want, don't need, and are not in our interest. So we think that's what we propose to working people. I'm on the ballot for the election. I'm number 1 on the list when you look on the ballot. And we urge people to vote for Omari Musa. For those who say, well, that's a vote you're not going to wear and that's a wasted vote. Well, isn't it a wasted vote if you wind up voting for something you don't want and get it?
That's something. That is something. That's some good logic right there. Well, I want to end this interview with, if people want to support your campaign, if people want to support you, if they want to keep up with you, if they want to follow you, if they want to learn more about the Socialist Workers Party, how can they go ahead and do that?
Well, we have an office here in Washington, D.C. Let me slowly go through what our address is. We are at 7603 Georgia Avenue, Northwest, Suite 300, Washington, D.C., 20012. That's our address. We've had an office there for some time. We've actually been established in Washington, D.C. since the mid-1970s, not at the same place. Our phone number is 202 536 5080, and our email address is swp.washingtondc@verizon.net. And we'll be happy to come out and speak with folks one-on-one, one-on however many, to discuss our platform and our program. And if you want to reach us, call that address and we'll send you our program between now and November 3rd. I can only urge you to vote for me because of our program, not because I'm tall, dark, and handsome. And I don't have much.
Thanks so much, Omari, for joining me today. It's been such a pleasure having this chat, and I wish you the best of luck on your election.
I appreciate the opportunity to do it, and thanks to all of those who are watching and listening.
Of course, thank you. And to our viewers, thank you for watching.